folks, welcome to the new Blu-ray and DVD update. Got a lot of stuff here, going to try to talk through it. I think I've got mostly DVDs than anything else. This is some cheap stuff, uh, you know, for $5 that you couldn't pass, I really couldn't pass up. And so let's get right into them. First up, I got at several of these are from Walmart. I got this movie. I remember watching this back in the 80s, and it was kind of a like a fan favorite movie at the time, and it's the first film that I know of directed by Christopher Columbus. Not Chris Columbus, I'm sorry. He at this time he had written The Goonies and Gremlins and stuff like that. But this was his first movie into directing, and it's Adventures in Babysitting. Yeah, starring Elizabeth Shue as the main character there. So yeah, and I believe they just announced that this is coming out on Blu-ray. I believe Mill Creek has picked it up, or somebody has picked it up off of Disney. So next up, I got a Ralph Bakshi film, and that is American Pop. Supposedly not one of his best movies. Basically, the movie is about what is it? About how many generations? It's like four generations of this family whose life revolves around popular music. And I know, reading some reviews, that Bakshi actually had some trouble making that movie. He got into a dispute with Bob Seger. That's why Bob Seger's Night Moves is incorporated into the movie. He originally wanted another song in that place. I forget what it was, but the climax actually has Night Moves by Bob Seger, which doesn't really make any sense. Next up is a Blu-ray. I finally got this was actually my Christmas gift from my dad. He actually bought me the DVD copy of Heaven is for Real, and I told him this has got to go back. For one, I already have the movie, and two, it's on Blu-ray. So I had to take it back, and so got the return and I picked up Ant-Man, starring Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly and Michael Douglas. Next up, this is a movie I remember watching on IFC a long time ago. And I found this. Where did I find this? I found this pretty cheap. I think I found it at FYE. Yeah, I found it at FYE. Somebody had. It was just a new DVD that they had, and no one had picked it up. And it's a great movie. Directed and starring Robert Duvall, and that is The Apostle, where he plays a preacher who is his wife is cheating on him, and he does the wrong thing by killing the guy who's going to take his place, and he injures him, but he's in intensive care. But when the guy finally dies, that's when they send the police after him, because that is still murder. But he goes and lives in this small town, and he asks for forgiveness from God and becomes an apostle. He ends up starting a new church, and so on and so forth. He delivers a lot of people back to the Lord. Next one up is I have the Blu-ray to the first movie. Unfortunately, I don't see this ever coming out on Blu-ray. It's Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Yeah, so you know, you gotta get the sequel too. That's a lot of fun. Um, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, while Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, it has a Blu-ray release. Unfortunately, the sequel does not. Um, Probably because it was a box office disappointment. It's not as popular, but you know, sequels, the way they are. Now, I know this one is out on Blu-ray, but I have been unable to find it. It's been really hard because I really wanted to watch it on Blu-ray, and unfortunately, I just settled for the DVD, and that is Tom Cruise and Oliver Stone's Born on the 4th of July, his second war movie after Platoon, based on a true story. Winner of 2 Academy Awards, including Best Director. Moving on, speaking of Academy Award winning directors, I have the Blu-ray release of Steven Spielberg's Bridge of Spies, starring Tom Hanks. Really, really well done, well performed movie. Will it win an Oscar or anything like that? Who knows? It is nominated, but it's a really well done true story. Now, next up, I got the Blu-ray to Joel and Ethan Coen's Burn After Reading, which I'm looking on the back of this thing, and I think I heard very, very mixed things about this movie, and I'm noticing that something is a little off about this movie already, and that was the director of photography. Director of photography is Emmanuel Lubinski. Usually Joel and Ethan Coen use a guy by the name of Roger Deakins, and this is a movie that did not use Roger Deakins, and which seems a little strange to me. We have Burn After Reading. Next up is, I'm just going to say it, The Change Up, the unrated version with Ryan Reynolds, Jason Bateman. I've yet to watch it, but I'm not quite sure why I picked that up. But who knows? Next up, for $5, I got Tom Cruise in Cocktail. Yeah, just, you know, for $5, some of the older Touchstone movies. Now, this one I was wanting to see. I did not know if it was out on Blu-ray. I have yet to read that it ever was released on Blu-ray, but this is the DVD version, which is definitely available. Found this at Walmart for $5, and it's Electric Boogaloo, the wild untold story of Canon Films. Great documentary about just 2 filmmakers who couldn't be more full of themselves. I'm talking about Menachem Golan and Yolan Globus. These guys believed that they had the best movie. They were making the best movies on the planet. And they were as campy can get. And just the amount of violence and sex and stuff like that they were putting into their movies. They thought that they were the best game in town. Now, next up is, I found this at a Dollar General store, and of course they have like movies you buy bins, and You can get some really cheap Blu-rays, for under $5 or $5 and under. Granted, they're without the cases, mind you, but I end up finding this. I remember seeing this back when it originally was released on videotape. This was originally a VHS only release, but Warner Brothers has been generous to get the rights to this and release Charlton Heston Presents the Bible. And of course this has been advertised on TV, throughout the early 2000s as well. And it's a really, really well done. It's Charlton Heston, doing what he does best, doing his biblical characters. And it happens to tell 4 stories out of the Bible, because it's not the whole Bible. There's no way that you could do that. And it's 4 stories, part 1 being the story of Genesis, the story of Moses, which he is famous for in the 10 Commandments, Jesus of Nazareth, and the Passion, which is the death and resurrection. Really well done for the time. Again, you're not going to find this on high def, because this the way it was filmed. It was filmed in standard def. And of course now he's long gone, and that's, to hear him actually tell those stories and actually tell them where they actually happened, because there's actually a scene where he's telling the story of Christ being baptized in the Jordan River. Well, he's actually standing in the Jordan River. Just really interesting watch. Next up, I got a Blu-ray. Forgot where I got this. I was thinking I got it at FYE or something. I got it someplace fairly cheap, because it's it's a catalog title, but it's Clint Eastwood in The Line of Fire. Also starring John Malkovich and Rene Russo, directed by Wolfgang Peterson. It's Wolfgang Peterson. I'm not going to say anymore. Now, next one is a movie I used to watch quite a bit when I was a kid. I'm talking like maybe 11, 12 years old, because I remember reading this several times when I was a kid, and we really enjoyed the book, and we were so excited that there was going to be a movie adaptation of this book. And the movie was okay. I'm, of course, being grown up looking back on it now, but when it came out, it was kind of a big deal. And it's the Blu-ray release of The Indian in the Cupboard, of course, remastered in 4K. Not that much in terms of special features. The big thing is that there's a interview with the cast from Goosebumps, the new Goosebumps movie, that they talk about this. And of course it has the actor who played Little Bear talking about the making of the movie, and that he was really known for being a hip-hop artist at the time. And of course, he wanted, him actually being a Native American, he was very lucrative to accept that role, because he thought that he didn't want to take a role where he was going to be stereotyped, and he was actually against the stereotypes of Native Americans and things like that. Next up, I don't remember if I showed this off. I didn't show it off in the last one. I don't remember if it was the one before that, but I added to my Christopher Nolan collection. I don't have the Blu-ray, unfortunately. I found the DVD, and this is basically the one that put him, it was his first big studio movie. People talk about people talk about Memento, but that was not a studio film. That was very independently released. While Insomnia It's his first big studio film. It's his first film with Warner Brothers. After Insomnia, I believe he did The Prestige, and then the Batman movies, and so on and so forth. But this is the one that was his first big studio release film. Readjust that there. That was his big studio with Al Pacino, Robin Williams, and Hilary Swank. And of course, looking at the credits, you see all the key players that Nolan tends to work with. However, it does not have Hans Zimmer doing the score. That's the only oddity about it. Now, next up is one I used to rent pretty regularly when I was a young kid. And looking back on it, after picking this DVD up and watching it, I got it for $5 at Walmart. It will not be coming to Blu-ray because of obviously the type of movie it is. It was at a period where obviously they were taking TV shows and famous cartoons and giving them a not a live action, but a theatrical motion picture where there was actually some decent animation to and it's Jetsons the movie. Remember watching that pretty regularly. I watched it recently and it doesn't hold up. I can't think. Yeah, and it's actually directed by Hanna-Barbera, William Hanna and Joseph Barbera. One of the last things that they did. And yeah, it doesn't hold up. It's very 90s. That was another thing that was to bring the Jetsons into the 90s, because you know the Jetsons cartoon was very 1960-ish, and so those stereotypes of what the future would look like in the 1960s, as opposed to the 90s, which still has that 60s type of look, but there's the music and the stuff like that, and the emotions that the characters go through are very 1990-ish. Like especially when you have what's her name as Judy, being played by very famous singer at the time, Tiffany, voicing that character. Yeah, it kind of makes it late 80s, early 90-ish. Next up, adding to my Kevin Smith fare, supposedly he's doing the sequel to this. In the best of the 1990s slipcover, I have Mallrats. And I think to this day still considers his worst movie that he's ever made, because it actually was a bomb when it came out, because he got famous from Clerks, and unfortunately they wanted to bring him in to do, Universal wanted to bring him in to do Mallrats, which is also his project, but Universal was going to give him the money to do so, and unfortunately it didn't turn out too well, and so that broke up the relationship between Kevin Smith and Universal. He would go back to Miramax to make his next movie. Next up, I saw this in the theater, thought it was really, really good. Even saw it in the 3D format, and it's Matt Damon in The Martian. Interesting thing is that also Jessica, is it Jessica Chastain? I can't remember. Yeah, Jessica Chastain. Both Matt Damon and Jessica Chastain were in Interstellar. So, and it was interesting that both movies were about space and time, and now they're reuniting to do this with Ridley Scott. And just a entertaining movie. That's about all I can say about it. it's just a really fun, not a, well, it's an interesting movie. It's a really good movie. Better than the last Ridley Scott movie I saw, which was Exodus of Gods and Kings. Avoid that, please. Now, next up, I do believe that there is a Blu Ray release and a better DVD release, but it's, but I found the original DVD. There's a hair stuck in it of The Music Man. And I remember watching this in middle school. My music teacher at the time was wanting us to watch it for some reason. And any of you guys that know the show Family Guy would know the song Shapoopy. Well, this is where that came from. Buddy Hackett singing Shapoopy. Now, next up, I had been wanting to find this, but had to order this online because no brick and mortar stores carry this. Maybe Barnes and Noble or something like that, but I haven't seen it. And it's Elia Kazan's famous film starring Vivian Leigh and Marlon Brando, the Digibook edition of A Streetcar Named Desire. Yeah, I've been wanting to find that for quite some time after seeing Crazy Jason have a copy of this at one point in time, and thought, man, that would look good on my shelf too. You know, the famous line, Stella! You know, it's so well remembered. And, man, I just found a lot of these old Warner Snapper Cases movies these time around. And I believe that there is a better case for this, but the edition, actually, I just now remembered, they just announced that this is coming to Blu-ray, and it's Rick Moranis, Dave Thomas, Max von Sydow in Strange Brew. They're Bob and Ed, what is it? What's their characters? Bob and Doug McKenzie from SCTV, and this is their feature film movie Strange Brew. Of course, very popular show in Canada, and so yeah, Strange Brew, and I managed to watch it. Very, very funny comedy. You just don't get that type of comedy anymore. Matter of fact, I don't even think you would get something greenlit like that. Of course, it is directed by both Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas. Originally released by MGM. But again, you would never see something like that greenlit today. It's just, you know, what is that stupid comedy? Everything has to be a sex joke in order for it to be a comedy, unfortunately. I mean, just look like Mallrats. I mean, there's everything, or even better yet, the change up, which I showed earlier. Everything has to be a dirty joke, or it has to be something this disgusting, or drugs. You know, that's the way that's how they sell comedies now, and it's really sad. Clearing off the music stand because we do have some more. Found this at Big Lots, and I keep seeing it on the shelf. I just thought I'd check it out. Another Oliver Stone flick, talk radio. Of course, me being a big broadcast guy, my degree is in broadcast, and actually worked at a radio station for about 5 years. And this, you know, to have a movie like that, you know, that's of course right up my alley. But there's also, I never was in talk radio. I was actually playing music, actually. Next up, I found this collection. It's not on Blu-ray, unfortunately, but I think the titles may or may not be. But it's this Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton film collection, and in this it includes Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, The VIPs, The Sandpaper, and The Comedians. Unfortunately, with Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf in here, it says it has the 2-disc 40th anniversary edition. Well, it has the 40th anniversary edition remastering disc where you just watch the movie, but the special featured disc is not included, unfortunately. Even though it says it's included, it's not. It's just not there. It is just the movie disc alone. That is it. Next up, now we're all familiar with James Cameron's Titanic. Here is one of the earlier films. This actually was not the first. I thought it was the first, but this is one of the earlier times that Hollywood tried to adapt the story of Titanic onto feature film, and it's 1953's Titanic, starring Clifton Webb, Barbara Stanwyck, and Audrey Dalton. There is a documentary on here by trying to think who. There's a documentary on here called Beyond Titanic, and it talks about why that ship, that story, that shipwreck is so popular in the culture. And it goes through and talks about how many times it's been dramatized, of course, where the original Titanic is. It briefly talks about James Cameron's Titanic. Matter of fact, the narrator is David Warner, who played the architect in James Cameron's Titanic. So I thought it was going to be the Fox documentary that they aired when the Titanic was originally playing, and they showed behind the scenes of actually making the movie versus historical fact. And unfortunately, that's not the same documentary. That documentary may be on another, like an older DVD or a deluxe edition packaging or something like that. It has yet to be seen again. Now, next up, I found this at General Dollar for $5 with the case, and it's Tom Cruise's Valkyrie, directed by Bryan Singer of X-Men fame. Have yet to watch the movie, and I think, isn't the accents a little off kilter in this? Like everybody's speaking differently. Now, next up, I picked this up because I enjoy the Kendrick Brothers movies. They're not the best made. They're very well faith-based movies. They do get you excited about, about God and, how we're supposed to be. Of course, they are ministers. Let's be honest. And it's their latest film, War Room. I got that New Year's Eve. Watched it among my church, and we really got excited because there's a lot of things in there about the power of prayer, and just a very good, heartwarming story about how prayer changes things. Now, next up, I've been adding to this TV show ever since the DVDs are coming out. Actually, all the DVDs are out, but they're in one big collector's set that's over $200. I do not see paying the price for that, so I will just get them as they come out individually. And that is The Wonder Years, Season 4. The difference being, I noticed with this release that they used the Star Vista logo on the disc, while this is going back to Time Life. However, they still use the Star Vista logo when you put the disc in. The movie the show has come down in price, actually, and this is a 4-disc season. Yeah, that's why I noticed that when the original, season 1 came out, it was only 2 discs, 2 disc or 3 discs, and I realized, hey, that was pretty cheap. But then by season 2, it was like $30, and I didn't really compare that. Well, season 1 only had so many discs in it. Season 2, there was a greater number of discs in it. So yeah, that takes into the factor of price. That's why I couldn't understand why the price was so different between season 1 and season 2. I thought it was popularity. Turns out it's disc content, the amount of discs that's in the set. But however, it has come down in price because I think maybe the popularity is not there for the show, and they're just trying to get rid of, just sell it for the true diehard fans. Now, I mentioned War Room being a faith-based film. Here's one that a lot of people didn't know was out, and when I saw it in the theater, it was just really, really good. And it was distributed by PureFlix Entertainment, and on Blu Ray and home video, it's distributed by Universal. Woodlawn, starring Sean Astin, Nick Bishop, Caleb Castile, Sherry Shepard, and John Voight. Very, very well made, underrated movie about football. And that actually is a true story. I basically described it. If you take the faith-based film Facing the Giants, mix that with the Disney film Remember the Titans, you get Woodlawn, and it's based on a true story. Can't ask any more than that. Now, the last one I got from a Movies You Buy at the Dollar General. This is one that didn't have the case, so I had to make a case. And it's Paul Giamatti's film, the one that he starred in, Sideways, directed by Alexander Payne. Yeah, Alexander Payne. And I remember seeing that a long time ago when I was in college. And just really, really bizarre and funny movie. So, that's the haul for the past few months. That's including the Christmas stuff, which was War Room and sorry, Ant-Man. That was it. All the other stuff I got on my own. So, from me to you, see you later.